It's day 84 of 118 days with Tudors, and today we're thinking about 1568. And in this year, Mary Queen of Scots becomes Elizabeth I's prisoner. Yesterday in 1567, we left Mary Queen of Scots being forced to abdicate the throne in favour of her son James, her infant son James, and being faced with being locked up for life. So in 1567, her young son James is crowned on the 29th of July, and then from the 24th of July she is locked up in Lochleven Castle, and she's there for 9 months. And one good thing about this is it gives her time to physically and mentally recover, because if you remember, she was unwell after the birth of her son, and then obviously she's lately suffered a miscarriage as well, plus the mental breakdown after the murder of her husband. If you've got no idea what I'm talking about, go back and watch the last 2 days of Mary Queen of Scots, because there's been a lot going on. So she is in prison. Now, somebody we haven't mentioned yet, she actually has a half-brother, an illegitimate half-brother called James Stuart. A lot of Jameses, I know. The Earl of Murray. He's been off in France because he wanted nothing to do with, he didn't like her marriage to Darnley. He didn't want anything to do with the whole Bothwell debacle. He's been off having a little holiday over there, and he's come back because now that she's locked up, he's claiming his right to be regent, and that's accepted. So he's now ruling in her stead. He comes back in the August of 1567. He's appointed on the 22nd of August 1567, and what does he do to gain a bit of money? He sells off all of his half-sister's jewellery. Lovely. Now, Mary tries to negotiate with her half-brother, tries to offer him some sort of compromise to allow her to rule again. He's not having any of it. So what does our girl do? She escapes. Obviously, that's what Mary does. So on the 2nd of May, this is the following year, she's locked up for, I think it's 9 months. On the 2nd of May, 1568, Mary escapes, and she does have some support. So she's met with some people willing to support her. There's then a battle between her half-brother's men and her men. Unfortunately, so they meet near Glasgow and have this battle. It doesn't go very well. The man who is leading her army suffers some fainting fits, which mean the whole logistics of the battle don't go in her favour. Her army then are scattered and lots of them are captured, but she manages to get away. She is then faced with a frantic ride through the night. She rides with the people she's got left for 24 hours with no food or drink. She does consider going back to France, but the issue she's got there is, while she would be looked after, she's got friends still there, she would have maybe a nice comfortable life, she'd have a home, but that's not what she wants. She wants her throne back, and she thinks Elizabeth is going to help her. She thinks Elizabeth is going to provide her with military support, so she decides to head to England. She gets herself on a boat on the 16th of May and heads to England. So, cut to Elizabeth. What does she make of all this? She's in quite a dilemma, Elizabeth, because she would actually quite like Mary to just have her throne back. She does quite want this kind of sisterly familiarity. I know she said before she was going to cut her off, but, you know, Elizabeth is fickle like that. She does kind of want a good relationship. She does kind of want to get her back on the throne. But she is torn between her emotional feelings, her heart and her head, essentially, whereas her best buddy Cecil is very much thinking with his head, very much thinking politically. And actually, the Earl of Murray has been a good friend politically to England, and they don't want to get on the wrong side of him. They want to keep that alliance there. So there is a real dilemma. So a conference is called in the September of 1568, where Cecil is talking to Murray, trying to negotiate, trying to work out what to do, who should be ruling Scotland, and how they can go about this in the best way for them. However, Murray rocks up and tries to say that Mary is guilty of 2 things and therefore can't rule Scotland. She's guilty of Darnley's murder, and this is his half-sister, guilty of Darnley's murder, and she is guilty of not only killing Darnley, but of having an adulterous affair with Bothwell while Darnley was alive. And he produces this casket. It's known as the casket of letters. That's supposed to implicate Mary in both these things. It's supposed to show that she was responsible for the murder, and also that she was writing these love letters to Bothwell. However, these have been shown to be hugely tampered with. They've taken old other letters that Mary was writing, completely changed them to say different things. Also, it's thought that the love letters in there, the sonnets, were actually written back in sort of 1520. They're old pieces of, stuff that have been made to look like Mary's work. However, while Mary cannot be found guilty from this, I mean, it's clearly nonsense, Cecil uses this as an excuse to not support her. So they decide in Murray's favour. He's allowed to go back to Scotland and carry on ruling, and actually given a bit of money from the English government to help him on his way. Mary is then illegally a prisoner. They can't let her go. They don't want her running off to France, as I've said before. And also, she still has a claim to the English throne, and they don't want people rising up, underneath her, people with, Catholic preference, to kind of get her on the throne instead. So they keep her locked up. So that's where we leave Mary in 1568, early 1569. She is an illegal prisoner at Tutbury Castle. She would stay a prisoner until she died. So she would remain a prisoner for almost 19 years. And in that time, she would never meet Elizabeth face to face. So that's where we'll be leaving Mary, Queen of Scots, for a little while. We will pop in and check on her from time to time, check she's being looked after, and see what she's up to. So join me tomorrow for 1569, and we'll see what's going on with Elizabeth.